When you pull on that jersey, you represent yourself and your teammates. And a name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back. Get that through your head.
And here we go.
And it is no good. He missed it. Are you kidding me? The season can't end like that.
Playoffs? What talk about? Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Some goofball in a hat and a red shirt. Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs to the 50. He runs to the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms. Bare-chested. Somebody stop that man.
Okay, I think we're alright. I think we're live. Welcome back to another edition of NETMA. I'm your host of the program, Tyler Falk. Glad you could join us for a Wednesday show, and big news dropped yesterday. Aren't we getting spoiled? Well, 4 new teams, all to make their debut at the convention, possibly, in Las Vegas, at an actual esport arena. SFL's come a long way. I cannot wait. I heard that we might be going to a 4-star hotel of some sort during the convention. I didn't know we were getting it as good as it has been shown to us. If any of you are checking out the HyperX Arena in Las Vegas, either just doing some of your own research or have actually been there, it looks pretty sweet. For us to be able to, because it sounds like we're going to be on that stage, in those bleachers, and have that big old 50-foot screen to watch the SFL on. I'm pumped. I'm pumped. The SFL has really outdone themselves with this convention, at least the convention planning, I should say. But I don't know about you guys. I'm thinking about booking my tickets already. We'll see what happens. But major news yesterday, of course, the convention location specifically in Las Vegas released, of course, 4 new teams coming to the SFL in season 19. Does that include? Let's see. Right, you guys can probably barely even hear me. Does that include? Does that include? I think I lost my train of thought as I'm trying to make sure you guys can hear me, but I'm trying to figure out. Does the 4 teams, will they include all 4 teams that have already been maybe, speculated out there? So are we going to see Calgary? Are we going to see Minnesota? Are we going to see Indianapolis? Are we going to see Seattle? I hope we do. 4 different things, but that means a whole lot of topsy-turviness for the SFL. That means Tom Pepper is out in Vancouver. That means we've already got a major rivalry between Vancouver and Calgary, not just because they're in Canada, because their former quarterback's the owner in Calgary. Oh, the storylines that could write themselves, and potential convention games that are already writing themselves. There's a lot to look forward to. There's a lot to look forward to come season 19. All right, but that's what we got for the convention. That's all the convention news that has been publicly released, at least for my knowledge, what I was able to research. So let's go ahead and get to Tyler's top 10 or power rankings. The full power rankings will be released later in the NETMA Discord server, which is linked down below in the description of this video. Go ahead and join us if you haven't already. But yes, Nick Hoagland, for sure, 24 teams, 28 teams confirmed by the SFL released video. So there will be 28 teams in season 19. Whether it be, hopefully all 24 teams stick around. Maybe with Jacksonville, with new ownership, maybe we have a different team in that Atlantic division, or maybe even a new team altogether somewhere else out of Jacksonville. Maybe Jacksonville sticks around. We don't know that yet. But hopefully all 24 franchises that are currently present stick around, and we add 4 more new franchises to the SFL family. But 4 teams confirmed for season 19. 4 new teams. Okay, let's go ahead and get on to the top 10. We start out with Sioux Falls jumping up into the top 10. They just wrapped up their North Division play with a 3-1 record. Of course, only losing to Baltimore, beating DC and everybody else in that division. A solid stretch of games for the Sparrows. They currently lead the West in a very tightly, almost very compacted West division. So they find themselves in front. That defense is legit. They came, like we were talking about yesterday, the run game was stupendous. GP Wells had himself a fantastic afternoon in route for Sioux Falls coming away with their 6-4 record. 2 more games to go for the Sparrows. I believe they're on a bye week this week. Yes, bye week. They come out and play Denver week 13. The Sparrows sitting pretty in 10th spot. Here as we begin the top 10. I think they are in prime position at this point. They'll play both Denver and Arizona close out the season 2 division rivalries, both trying to catch up to Sioux Falls. Arizona is on the back foot, of course, playing Las Vegas. Both Las Vegas and Arizona on the back foot. Whichever team loses, they're out of the playoffs. That's it. So both teams, Arizona and Las Vegas, not in the top 10. You'll find out where they are later tonight. On to the next team, number 9, the Charleston Predators. Now, it looked kind of bleak for the Predators after getting Kentez Johnson to replace TD Drew. But for all intents and purposes, this past week, yeah, he was pretty accurate. Over 80% passing. Only, I think, had 4 incompletions, if I read his stats right, in last week's game versus Atlanta. They also find themselves on a bye week. Of course, the defense has always been strong this entire season. Occasionally giving up the big game. But Charleston is not a team to be looked over. Kentez will have, some up and down games as he gets reacclimated to the SFL. And now for them to get on a bye week, now the Predator offense can start to tool a little bit more into Kentez's strengths and weaknesses and just fine tune that game plan for their new quarterback. So Charleston, I think, deserve a spot here in the top 10 with everything going on. It's crazy SFL. I think there's 12 teams below 500, 12 teams at 5-6, 5-7 or something like that, and the rest are like 3-7 or 3-6. So it's a very, very interesting playoff picture that we have. I think all the top 12 are currently above 500. All the bottom 12 are below 500. So Charleston, I think, deserve a spot here in the top 12 because of their defense, and if they can fine tune that offense to fit Kentez, I think they'll be just fine. On to number 8, Jacksonville. Despite being plagued with interceptions against St. Louis, Dunhill had himself a fantastic day. Over 400 passing yards, and in the route to the win, of course, that defense supported them. And there's the old analogy where defense wins championships. Defense is going to win games, especially for these two, for both Charleston and for Jacksonville. Because they have a serviceable quarterback. Dunhill is a serviceable quarterback for Jacksonville, of course, former SFL champion. And Kentez is a serviceable quarterback, or has turned into a serviceable quarterback in some regards. Of course, Kentez was not really known for his accuracy a whole lot in Houston, though he did pull off a couple of great games. However, in Charleston, I think they have a better understanding of what Kentez can and cannot do. Jacksonville, we'll just say, have Dunhill, and Dunhill can put up some big numbers. He just has to keep those turnovers to a minimum, because when Jacksonville come in and play Louisiana, they're going to need to limit those turnovers, or if they're going to throw as many turnovers, and they're going to have to try and put up the same amount of yards against Louisiana. I don't know what to say about the rest. We'll talk to them more in a bit, but Jacksonville, again, have a very tough game for the Kings coming up against Louisiana at home, though. We will be in the Kings' lair, so it will be a little bit somewhat more. I think this is maybe a game Jacksonville could sneak a win against Louisiana. I just have a feeling. All right, on to number 7. We have Lone Star, and well, they they had some trouble against their rivals Fort Worth, and a lot of folks were kind of unhappy with how they were playing. Though they do overcome all of those adversities and do take the win. You'll notice that, especially from last week, none of these teams moved up or down a whole lot, especially the top 8. I don't think moved at all, just because everything's too tight. I think all top 8 teams the last 2 weeks did win or want to bye. So really no true movement in this top 8. So spoiler alert, we're just going to talk about the teams because we didn't get a whole lot to talk about them last week. So Lone Star in their last 2 games, again, lost to Vancouver, very, very tight, we knew that game was going to be pretty high scoring. It was good for Lone Star to try and keep pace for the most part, but a good turnaround versus Fort Worth keeps them here in the top 10, keeps them into 7th position. All right, on to number 6, DC, and they find a way to finally stop that skid. They were 2-3 throughout this middle part of their schedule, splitting their 2 bye weeks. DC beat Arizona in the last time they were out. They were on the bye week, of course, this past week. Now they play St. Louis. I'm looking at the wrong one. They play Baltimore. Crucial matchup for both clubs. This is for the division. Can they find a way to maybe put a dent into that perfect season and maybe keep some slim division hopes alive? It's going to take a lot. They're going to need a lot of help. But DC first has to help themselves. They have to come out and have a strong game plan against Baltimore. They have to beat the Vultures to have any shred of hope of taking the North Division. So a good game plan, a week off should help, but it all comes down to what happens for DC. I was hoping this game might get flexed to maybe next level coverage because it's for the division, because it's Baltimore going for a perfect season. We don't have anything confirmed as of yet of when that schedule will be or when these teams will play. For now, according to the broadcast schedule released at the beginning of the season for next level, DC and Baltimore have not been flexed. I have not heard any rumors about them being flexed. So DC and Baltimore, first game going over on Sunday evening. From what it stands on the SFL website. So might want to tune into this one. It's going to be a bloodbath. All right. On to number 5. It's Florida. And Florida just haven't had the most Florida season, of course. Now, the back half of the season has usually been a strong point. They are 2-1 coming off of their second bye week. They did take care of business against Tulsa quite emphatically, if I do say so myself. They do play Atlanta, and Atlanta need all the help they can get. Atlanta's going to need to win out. Florida needs to win out to try and keep pace with Jacksonville. So another must-watch football game we have on tap. But as you can see, Florida's offense is capable of scoring points if your defense is not prepared. Tulsa was a little underprepared, I should say. I'm not going to say they were not prepared at all, but they were underprepared. There were some times where that defense did step up. But for the Storm, now comes the task if they can capitalize on Atlanta. Atlanta's very seldomly scored over 20 points this season. Can they capitalize? Can Florida be Florida? Can they score about 30 points? Atlanta did a nice job scoring 30 points in that first half. Donuts in the second half. But Florida are going to need to play their game, play their style of offense, and keep Atlanta's offensive, or at least revert Atlanta's offense back to their ineffective woes, in a sense, in order to win this football game. All right, on to number 4, we find Louisiana. No, I'm not moving them up above Mexico City because of a reason that I have for the Aztecs. But for Louisiana, if they can take the division, I think, especially with a win against Jacksonville, a playoff at this point, it's almost formality now for Jacksonville to make it into the playoffs, even at 6-4. For the Kings are 6-3, but Louisiana is going to need to win to demonstrate, they did beat Florida, but they're going to need to do it again. They're going to need to beat Jacksonville. You have to continue to prove people wrong in this league, especially good teams. Jacksonville, to my surprise, of course, only 1-11 in my preseason predictions, but they've done really well. Jacksonville have done extremely well this season. They are the front runners for their division. They deserve to be here in the top 10, and Louisiana is going to need to shut them down. We know that Jacksonville is in the bottom tier, or bottom 10, I should say, of turnovers. They like to turn over the ball a whole lot. Louisiana's defense, of course, likes to take away the football. So if Louisiana's offense can maintain some consistency and keep the Rebs on track in the offense, the defense will take care of the rest. So that's all that needs to happen. Can the Revolution take care of a slip up from Tulsa and Atlanta to take the division? A win is all they need. Can the Revs do it? On to number 3, and here's the reason. Ramos. Ramos is the reason. The coaching and giving him an extra week to prepare against Houston's win streak, I think, keeps Mexico City at 3. The Houston Hyenas are dangerous. They are on now a 4-game win streak, and they look to be a team on a mission. Houston were 1-4 to begin the season. Now have rattled off 4 straight wins. Mexico City, Ramos has had time to prepare. The Aztecs have looked better and better as the season has gone on. They need a win here, not only to keep the lead in the division, but to have a solid win under their resume. Mexico City have beaten Fort Worth, London, Lone Star, Portland, and San Diego. Not really maybe 1 or 2 games in there could be considered a statement win. This would be a statement win against a high-flying Hyena squad, and for a division lead and potentially a division title should other games go their way. All right, number 2 is Vancouver. Please don't play with your food next time, Legion. We were talking about, we were doing stats for that game, and I'm looking at that game. I'm like, why isn't Vancouver as prolific on offense as they usually are? Why aren't they putting the Lycans away? It looked to be a very, very just nonchalant performance in that second half from the Legion. Need to turn that around, especially when they come back and play Houston in week 13. If Houston, or I shouldn't say if Houston, but if Houston, continue their momentum, even if they do lose, if they put up a good game against Mexico City, that team's going to be a tough nut to crack as well. Vancouver need to come up with a game plan going into week 13 with Houston in mind, and with Houston and a potential spot for Vancouver to maintain momentum. We've seen plenty of teams in the SFL go into the playoffs with a slump. Queen City last season, losing a couple straight, losing in the first round. Vancouver can't do that. Of course, as things stand, Vancouver stand on the precipice of a first-round bye. A win would definitely clinch a first-round bye for Vancouver in week 13. That's something that they have to prepare for. Number 1, of course, they've been number 1 all season. That's the defending champion Baltimore Vultures. This is easily the biggest game for Baltimore against DC for the division title to keep the perfect season alive. They haven't had a whole lot of pressure this season. Maybe Sioux Falls a couple weeks ago probably kept definitely kept them on their toes. But now as the Vultures play the Dragons, the impetus is on them. The pressure is on to keep everything going. If they slip up, it leads to a lot of speculation I don't think any team wants, let alone Baltimore. Of course, the Vultures threw a game away to London, the final week of the regular season, in just a tune-up game, someone would say, for Baltimore. But I think the Vultures now, I think after losing one at the end of the season last season, I think they will need to have everything on point to come away with the victory. That's all I've got for today. Tomorrow we have an interview, And Friday we will do pick'ems. And until then, everybody, that is going to do it for this program of NETMA. So we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.